is 432 Hertz New Age Schmertz? Well, in the West, modern standard concert pitch for the note A has constantly been changing over the centuries, and since 1955 it has currently been set by the International Organization for Standardization at 440 Hertz. But if anyone dares to Google search A at 432 Hertz, one is drowned in a whole veritable tsunami of gigabytes of information about how 432 Hertz is the frequency of the cosmos, that this is a spiritual frequency, that this was a reference pitch used by all ancient civilizations, and that the 440 Hertz we now use for A was all a Nazi conspiracy to make mankind more paranoid. There is even a surprisingly common New Age assertion that 432 Hertz is a healing frequency which magically matches the resonant frequency of human DNA. The real irony about the belief in this healing frequency stuff to do with 432 Hertz is that this has gotten confused amongst hardcore New Age believers with yet another New Age unproven assertion about a primordial solfeggio healing frequency, which were apparently at 528 Hertz. The most bizarre New Age muddled mayhem I have so far come across in my objective research is the following allegation that even the pitch of our modern day dialing tone is an evil conspiracy to corrupt humanity with the evil sound of A at 440 Hertz. How on earth did all this ridiculous virtual intellectual voodoo come about? And is there any actual body of truth to be gleaned amongst the mountain of mumbo-jumbo? As the ever-sceptical philosopher, in my epistemological efforts to get to grips with what is true and what is not, I still adhere to the correspondence theory of truth, which roughly states that nothing is true unless it corresponds either to facts, or in the absence of definitive facts, something is only likely to be true if there is an overwhelming body of arguments to support a specific assertion. Or else I might as well just say that the Oort cloud is actually comprised of billions of flying teacups hurtling around the edge of the solar system, just because lots of people on the internet tell me that this is so. If there are two or more hypotheses which can be used to account for the same set of facts, then according to the common sense philosophical tool of Occam's razor, which, as very neatly summed up in the following quote from Wikipedia, states that the one with the fewest assumptions should be selected. Other more complicated solutions may ultimately prove correct, but in the absence of certainty, the fewer assumptions that are made, the better. So, using this philosophical toolkit approach to my investigative efforts then, I just really needed now to attempt to actually answer the question, where on earth did all the New Age nonsense about the vibrating frequency of DNA and the even more ridiculous notion that this was some form of primordial, ancient, original tuning, and that the Nazi conspiracy theory about Goebbels raising standard pitch to make all humanity paranoid by infiltrating our telephone dialing tones, etc. actually begin. In order to begin to address these issues with some vestige of reason, I therefore opened a discussion thread on various Facebook groups to get a more invaluable input on these issues, to try and work out what was fact from fiction. Here is a quote from some of this discussion thread, which contained the most interesting revelations about the actual origins of these tangled webs of mostly paranoid New Age nonsense. The solfeggio miracle Hertz is 528 Hertz, and a completely different movement from the 432 Hertz movement. In fact, the scumbag Len Horowitz is against 432 Hertz and slanders it at every opportunity. The 528 Hertz scale Horowitz speaks of isn't musical. What Horowitz does is steal other people's works, claims it as his own, then exploits people for cash. when people started pointing out that his scale sounded rubbish and not at all musical, he simply adjusted the bollocks he was selling to them about using frequencies to heal. He just changes his story so that he's never wrong. Obviously, I have a very low opinion of the guy. 528 Hertz was started by him. The original frequencies and the solfeggetto research was done by Joseph Pielio, from whom Horowitz stole the work, changed it, then sold it as his own in a bastardized version. Horowitz also tries to sue anyone who he perceives as a threat to his work. Details on the times he has done this are available on the internet. He's also associated with Druavalo Melchizedek, who is just as much a bad egg. Don't listen to either of them would be my recommendation. I believe Horowitz probably pulled the DNA theory out of his own ass. As for Joseph Goebbels, he was the chief propaganda guy who worked for the Nazis during this World War II. He also at one point recommended 440 Hz as a standard, though this was not the time it became standardized. A more valid complaint about the standardization of 440 Hz is that it was voted upon by American jazz musicians, and many classical music companies were left out of the process entirely. So people took the propaganda aspect of Goebbels and the 440 standardization and concluded mind control conspiracy. These words of wisdom were sent to me kindly by a chap called Tomasan Michiru. A very comprehensive blog on the subject of what is fact and fiction, the whole 432 Hz saga, can be found in an article posted by Roel Hollander entitled 432 Hz, What is Related and What is Not. In this very detailed article, Hollander quite rightly states that the number 432 can be found in a large number of things, in music, sacred geometry, astronomy, philosophy, religion, etc. But numbers without units are nothing more than symbols, and symbols don't sound. In order for something to relate, there have to be units and characteristics that match. The only other objective, rational information I've so far found on this whole convoluted issue is the following passage on Wikipedia on scientific tuning, about the efforts in the 18th century to standardise the ever-rising concert pitch. Indeed, the whole 432 Hz thing was actually first suggested by Joseph Sauveur, that's pronounced Sauveur, in an effort to maintain rational ratios between the musical intervals. Sauveur proposed that all the musical pitches should be based on a fixed sound, that is, one unspecified note set to 100 Hz from which all the others could be derived. In 1713, Sauveur changed his proposal to one based on C4 set at 256 Hz. This was later called philosophical pitch. Sauveur's push to standardise a concert pitch was strongly resisted by the musicians with whom he was working, and the proposed standard was not adopted. The notion was revived periodically, including by mathematician Sir John Herschel and composer John Pike Hula in the mid-19th century, but never established as a standard. In the 19th century, Italian composer Giuseppe Verdi tried to stop the increase in pitch to which orchestras were tuned. In 1874, he wrote his Requiem using the official French standard normal pitch of A tuned at 435 Hz. Later he indicated that 432 Hz would be slightly better for orchestras. So that's basically the facts of the matter, and then it all got blown up like a big New Age balloon. So what about objectively testing the claims of the effects of music at 432 Hz? In order to objectively test this thing, since 2014, most of my albums have been recorded with A tuned at 432 Hz. The first one being the Lyre of Apollo, the cellist lyre of ancient Greece. My objective observations: yes, the resulting music does sound calmer, but the sceptical philosopher in me still assumes that there is a far simpler explanation, and therefore by Occam's razor a much more likely explanation, that rather than the calming effects from the fact that 432 Hz is the frequency of the cosmos with which my lyre playing is somehow magically resonating with, etc., exactly the same calming effect would happen at 431 or 421 or whatever very slightly lower Hertz vibration, due to the decrease in excitement induced to the listener by the slightly lower pitch. It is the very subtly lower pitch which has the calming effect, not some specific slightly lower pitch at 432 Hz, a completely arbitrary frequency which simply happens to be at a very slightly lower pitch. In my opinion, given the lack of any other definitive evidence to the contrary. I have, and always will be, a great advocate of Occam's razor. I'm sure original Baroque music sounded even more at one with the universe due to the even lower reference pitch used back in the day of 415 Hz. Indeed, back in 1998 I was lucky enough to acquire from a second-hand music store a Baroque fiddle made by a chap called Remerus Leeson, and being built in 1753, it still had its original shallower angled fingerboard and thinner bass bar, both set up to the lower Baroque pitch. When I played this fiddle at lower Baroque pitch, it indeed sounded far more calming to the ear than the same music played at modern concert pitch. And the reason? Increasing concert pitch increases the feeling of tension, brilliance and excitement in the listener, which was precisely the reason why there was a tendency to increase concert pitch over the centuries in the first place. Another important issue: the whole notion of 432 Hz was certainly used to provide rational number ratios, as it was originally intended to do in the early 18th century when this tuning reference pitch was first proposed. But it does not follow from this that ancient civilizations also used 432 Hz as a reference pitch. Ancient civilizations did not even understand the concept of what sound waves actually were, let alone did they own an oscilloscope to measure the precise number of Hertz vibrations per second, unless these were provided by extraterrestrial beings, which I'm sure most of the hardcore New Age 432 Hz obsessives also believe built the pyramids in Egypt. So, back to reality. What was the real magic of the music of antiquity? The main irony of anyone who adheres to the 432 Hz thing is that even in my own lyre improvisation with A at 432 Hz, it was physically impossible, even during the course of the length of my improvisations, even for my modern nylon lyre strings to make the exact precise reference pitch of 432 Hz, due to the gradual slackening in tension of the strings, the slight imperfections in the uniformity of the string gauges, the subtle changes in humidity affecting the wood of my lyre, etc. It would have been even more impossible for the lyres and harps of antiquity, with temperamental, non-uniform gauge strings made of natural fibres such as unpolished wound gut, hessian or silk, to maintain their precise pitch for a performance of more than a minute or so, as I have discovered in my own experiments at using wound silk strings on my lyre. This can clearly be heard in my extended length single called Ancient Lyre Strings, which featured my lyre strung with 100% pure wound silk strings, tuned in the wonderfully pure just intonation of antiquity. The most intriguing observation I made through the course of this extended improvisation, that I recorded as ancient lyre strings was that even with the close approximation to just intonation which can be achieved with natural fibre silk strings, it was the wonderful purity of the sound of the intervals in just intonation which provided the magic, not the actual reference pitch of the musical mode I was attempting to tune to. No matter what the starting note of the mode I play in, it is the wonderfully pure ratio of musical intervals in just intonation which makes the difference. Just intonation creates intervals which sound almost three-dimensional in quality, with an almost tangible intensity, in contrast to the impure compromise of intervals in muddy, slightly out-of-phase modern equal temperament. Compared to just intonation used in antiquity, equal temperament is like a rose without its scent. The thing is, with just intonation, the musical intervals are geometrically pure. It's like mathematics in music, it's beautiful. Music in just intonation has the effect on the listener of sounding simultaneously more calming, yet almost magically at the very same time more inspiring. Just intonation, I believe, was the real magic of the music of antiquity, not some arbitrary frequency measured at either 432 Hertz or 528 Hertz for that matter, which the ancients, with no understanding of the physics of what sound actually was, could not have ever precisely measured in the first place. So, how does music actually heal? Music certainly does have a healing quality, as so well recounted in the classic timeless biblical story of how King David's lyre soothed the troubled mind of Saul. But in my opinion, this healing quality was almost certainly not imparted at the level of DNA, as the hardcore New Agers would have us believe. Music can literally heal the soul, because due to our truly archaic, pre-linguistic ability to express emotion through specific sounds, it follows that music is the only artistic medium which communicates the beauty of aesthetic emotion directly to our higher cognitive faculties. In this way, like a magic carpet, music can transport us from our own inner sufferings and take us on a fantastic journey of inspiration and imagination, while simultaneously instilling in us an appreciation of the timeless geometrical symmetry of harmonious musical intervals. And in doing so, music can in time, like it once soothed the troubles and tribulations of Saul, restore the inner harmony of our very own souls once more.